And here we go. Hello everybody and welcome to the Gamers Inn. Come on in, pull up a chair next to the fire. It looks like you've had a long journey. I'm your host Ryan, and Jocelyn is tied up in Ontario right now. I mean, don't call for help. That's just a figure of speech. She's not actually tied up, but I am joined by a special guest. You can't see him, but you will be able to hear him. His name is Matt Kearney. How are you, Matt? How is you, Matt?
I is good. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. So it's not very often we have new mysterious guests, and I assume the internet does not know who you are, but I could be wrong. Why don't you tell the fine people a little bit about yourself?
Oh, I think the internet knows me quite thoroughly.
Oh, good.
But no.
Well, then we'll move on. Okay. No, just...
yeah, so I was a roommate of Ryan's at Trent University and fellow gamer, and we've stuck together doing all kinds of online gaming and some other random things as time goes by. But yeah, just good buddies with Ryan and some of our other close friends.
Yeah.
I work over at BlackBerry in Waterloo. I'm living in Kitchener right now and playing as many games as I can in my free time.
Good. Yes. Good old BlackBerry. I don't own a BlackBerry, but I do use their code. It's funny, someone in the chat room is already asking for the Smash Bros. Code.
I see that.
You got to stick around. I'm not going to give it out right now. We'll get to it. Just calm down. Something else, Kearney as I call him, but we'll call him Matt just to make it easier for everybody else. We are going to be part of a wedding next week. You are a groomsman in my wedding, and we're going to have a great time.
Wait, you're getting married?
Yeah. Oh my god, it's just been 1 week of working on stuff. I'm not actually getting married. No, I'm just joking. Yes, getting married next week. Next week there will be no show because we're all at the wedding. Unfortunately, no. Fortunately for me, unfortunately for our fine folks who are expecting a show. But we'll try to have something up that week. I'm still working on it. I'm thinking of things, but anyways, really looking forward to that. I've got video game characters and video game related wedding things coming out my ears, but something I've been trying to get my hands on a lot more this week is my PlayStation 4 to play some Destiny. And you've been rocking some Destiny as well, Matt.
Oh, I've been playing a little.
A little? Okay, here comes an interesting story. Pretty much the story of my video gaming life, at least at the Palace we called it, when we lived together. Every time we'd each pick up a game, one of us would hit endgame pretty much way faster than everybody else. Now, what level are you now?
I might be 20.
You might be 20. Okay.
Yeah, that's possible.
I think I just hit level 10 last night. So you're already ahead. But that means you've experienced more of it than I have, so it makes you the perfect guest. So what are your thoughts on Destiny? Just quick brass tacks. Do you like it?
I'm a fan.
You're a fan?
It's a fun game. It's got some really impressive visuals. The game, like the controls feel really good. The gunplay feels awesome. It's like, dare I say, a more polished Halo.
You dare say it.
Yeah, it's a beauty. I really like it. It's fun. But I'm worried that there's going to be some longevity issues. But at the same time, I'm thoroughly enjoying it right now. So I don't really care.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's only been out a week, and a lot of people are questioning sort of the time span it can take. But I mean, I think people are comparing this game to and rightfully so, to Halo, which is a game that comes out, everybody plays the single player for about a week, and then everybody plays the multiplayer forever, as long as map packs keep coming out. And I played a bit of the PvP, which they call the Crucible, and I'm actually really enjoying it. I'm really digging the different modes and stuff. Halo multiplayer was fun, but always felt like everyone was way better than me. In Destiny, it feels like the multiplayer is a little more balanced, and a level. It's always fun when you're a level 10 or 7 and getting the drop on like a level 20 because everything's like balanced except for your powers. So it's really cool. I really dig taking people out in the Crucible. What did you think about the PvP? Were you digging the PvP we were playing last night?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, sometimes you'll dive in and we'll be on a balanced game, but I have had a few games where I was on an overwhelming team where we would absolutely dominate everybody else. But I've also been on a team where we get absolutely dominated and I feel completely useless. So I don't know. I think there might be some matchmaking that needs to be adjusted in the future, or if there's any balance issues. But while everyone's kind of building up and getting used to the game right now, I think it'll just kind of be a toss-up whether you're going to have a completely even match or an absolute domination. But
Yeah.
I've also seen some really good players and I've seen some really terrible players. There was this one guy on one of the maps who just sat in a turret the whole game and nobody was anywhere near the turret, so he was completely useless.
Yeah. Now, was that the match we were playing where the turret was sort of in a weird spot where it like completely covered one of the control points?
No, that one isn't too bad. There was that guy that actually used that turret all the time, but there was another map that I was on. It was a much bigger map. I don't remember where it was. I think it might have been on the moon, and it. I don't know. There were all kinds of different turrets, but all of the action was in the middle of the map, in between all these rocky places that the turrets can't even see. So
Sure.
he was pretty useless.
Yeah, it's weird, and I'm sure like matchmaking will kind of balance out as the game keeps going and people start to level out their leveling, and I'm sure it does sort of pull from a large group of levels that are playing, but I don't know. I like the gunplay. It feels a lot more solid than it did in the beta and alpha. It sort of brought that the single player shooting was great in the beta and alpha, but I felt it was missing in the Crucible. And now that the Crucible is out of beta, it actually does feel a lot snappier, and the net code's a lot better now. And yeah, I'm just really enjoying it. And you get gear every time you finish a Crucible match. Like I think there's a random roll for the top 2 players.
I've seen it different ways actually.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it for where the top guys get the really good gear, but I've also saw a couple matches where the completely useless player got some of the best gear, like the person on the bottom of the list. So I'm not sure how that's awarded, but yeah, there are 2 reward slots for every player. And sometimes you might get nothing, sometimes you get 1, sometimes you get 2. They might be normal white items, common items, or they could be even legendaries. So it's a pretty unique way that you can actually just play the Crucible to level up your character and get all your gear, as opposed to focusing on the story first or vice versa.
Yeah.
So it's a neat way to play.
It's also a really good way to see other locales that you haven't unlocked yet. I was playing a Crucible match on the Mars map, and I haven't got to Mars in the story, and I was like, ooh, now I can't wait to get to Mars in the story. I get through this moon crap, but it's
yeah, actually the same thing happened with me. I was playing, I think you start on Earth and then you go to the moon, and I did a couple missions on the moon, and then I unlocked bounties, and the bounties in this game earn you specific bonuses or have specific goals, and the bounties that I unlocked were for the Crucible. So I hopped in, did a couple matches, and one of the matches was in this lush green location. Apparently it was on Venus, and I hadn't even seen this before, so it was pretty cool.
I've heard Venus is nice this time of year. I mean,
it's pretty lovely.
yeah. I mean, I haven't been myself, but I have seen pictures.
Really humid, but it's nice.
Yeah. Speaking of the story, how far are you? Like, I know there's 4 planets. That's pretty well known. You're past the moon. I know that, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I finished the story. Actually finished it today after work, and yeah. So I went through and jumped from planet to planet, and made sure I got the rest of the golden treasure boxes. So I have all of those collected. Actually, I think I'm missing 1, and it's at the end of a strike mission, so I didn't quite grab that yet.
Oh, interesting. Now, Kato is jumping to the end here, asking if it's worth getting. So I guess we'll give people that answer. I mean, my opinion is that Destiny is a fantastic title that is filling a void that has been getting bigger and bigger on the next gen consoles. I mean, if you own an Xbox One or a PS4, you pretty much bought this sight unseen. There's not a lot coming out for those next gen systems right now, and the reviews have been taking the game to task. I mean, there are problems with it, but the fact that you don't really have any other options right now is kind of like, if you like shooters and you kind of like Bungie, you should probably go out and pick up Destiny. It's a lot of fun, and the mechanics are great. The jump in, jump out party system is probably the best I've ever seen. The UI is fantastic. I mean, I can jump in, I'm floating in orbit in my ship, and I look at my friends list, and I'm like, oh, okay, Matt and Adam are doing a strike right now. I'm going to jump in. And I just hit a button, and I teleport, and I'm in their map, and I'm shooting things with them. That simple. And it works the same way. I mean, I can be running around minding my own business, then all of a sudden, like, I got two of my buds on their jetpack thingies, and we're good to go. So, I don't know. That's my thoughts. I think it's really worth picking up. If you're not into shooters, this isn't going to change your mind. You kind of have to like shooting things. What do you think, Matt? Is this worth getting?
Oh, I agree. It's definitely a solid buy, whether you are just buying it for the solo experience. If you want to do the story by yourself, even while you're doing the story, actually, you're on planets that people are doing their own patrol missions and their own stuff. So you'll actually see other people, and you can interact with them. You can kill enemies with them. You can semi or pseudo team up with them and just go and finish off groups of enemies. Or if you really want, you can just hold back, wait for them to go by, and the enemies will come jump down from some drop ships, and you can start all over again. Just go solo. It's a great game for solo play, and it's a really good game for the things you pointed out in multiplayer as well, where you can just jump in and out of other people's games. And then obviously, if you don't like that kind of stuff, you can even block people from jumping into your game if you wanted to go it yourself. Yeah, it's a sweet game. I definitely say it's a buy.
Yeah. The one thing that I've noticed is that my opinion of co-op story games is that it's always easier to experience the story when you're by yourself, and that's not different here. I mean, I was playing a mission last night and had a couple people jump in, and it can get confusing just with the voice chat and stuff. So it's good that you can block it, but I would never block it. It's really nice to be able to play with your friends seamlessly, and if you have problems, just like unplug your headset and it's all the same. I mean, you really don't need to be coordinating with each other on the normal sort of mode because it's all pretty standard, but in hard mode it's probably a good idea to have someone in your ear because you can like coordinate, and there's a lot of missions where you're protecting something. You'll start a hack or something, and Peter Dinklage is like, "Oh, watch my back. I'm gonna shine my light at this console for 5 minutes." Like, great. It's like, oh,
technically, yes, you're doing a defensive mission, but I've never in the entire playthrough that I've done, I've never run into a situation where I'm still alive and I fail. I find that
you're right.
You're technically just defending the area, but if you die, then you fail. Whereas it's almost like an onslaught of waves of enemies. So if you can survive the waves of enemies, then your defense is successful.
Okay, yeah. So Explode in the chat brings up a good point about lore. I love the way Bungie treats their lore. Halo, it's one of my favorite franchises because of the story. In this, the story is set up as the, I guess, distant future, starting off in present day and slowly transforms. I mean, humans land on Mars. They find what's called the Traveler, which is a giant orb. And this giant orb basically skyrockets humanity with new technology and practices and expands lifespans and all that fun stuff. Then the darkness comes, which is the age-old Traveler's enemy, and all hell breaks loose. And you wake up on Earth, your character, you're the Guardian, or a Guardian for that matter. There's a bunch of Guardians. I think there's a lot of NPC Guardians. Then every other Guardian you see with a name above it is a actual player. So that's where the MMO stuff comes in. But the story is basically you're not trying to defeat the darkness, but hold them back. Like survive rather than win. is what I get from the earlier missions. Am I right on that, or am I sort of thinking?
Yeah, no, it's kind of like an unknown entity, I think, at first, or not entity, but power, where you're doing everything you can to survive and push it back, or just keep it from harming humanity and anything on Earth and different planets that are in the different sector. But yeah, I guess the lore. I don't know if you just hammer your way through it and don't really pay attention to cutscenes, then yeah, a lot of things can just get lost. But if you really get yourself indulged in the game and the actual story of it, then yeah, I can see how it's pretty simple to follow as far as why you're going from place to place and what you're doing. But then the other parts of that too are what Ryan, you and I were talking about was with the voiceover of Mr. Dinklage not being too spectacular, I don't think.
Yeah, he is hit and miss, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him. It's funny, like Peter Dinklage on Game of Thrones, fantastic. Bungie with VO, fantastic. You look at Destiny, everybody has great VO, I think, except for Peter Dinklage. It's so weird. It almost seems like it was impossible to screw up. And I'm not saying they completely screwed up, but some lines are delivered amazingly, and then other lines are kind of like, ooh, come on, Peter. You might want to do that one again, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I think to me it just seems like all of the lines were given to him with no context, so the emotion just isn't really there. But then if you want to argue about emotion, he is a robot, so maybe he's not supposed to sound like he has emotion. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's an interesting case.
Yeah, I've heard that argument, and then I see that argument with the fact that, like, sure, he has no emotion, but if you want to look at Bungie AIs and robots, I mean, you have the one robot that had the most personality, which was Guilty 343 or Guilty Spark from Halo. You had Cortana, which was, I guess, an AI, so that's not really a good argument, but especially Guilty Spark. I mean, he was a robot, and he was very punchy. So yeah. I find it interesting, and I know it doesn't ruin the game. It's kind of like makes moments fall flat a little bit. But yeah, no, I'm digging it. I'm halfway through the moon right now. The game is beautiful. If you really want to test out your next gen system, definitely get Destiny. But I'll be interested to see what the longevity of it is. Seeing as there's an expansion pack coming out in December, which is pretty quick, so we'll have to see. But yeah, any final thoughts on Destiny there, Matt?
When's the podcast over so I can keep playing?
Not yet. You gotta hang in there for a little bit more. I agree with you though. It's Friday night. I'm done working on stuff for the day. I might have to get some Destiny time in. We didn't talk about classes. Now let's touch on the classes, then we'll move on.
Let's do it.
Yeah, what are you playing?
I am a Titan.
A Titan of industry, right?
Sure.
Okay. Now, what the Titan's sort of like the tank, right?
Yeah. If you want to put it into MMO
Sure.
terms, it's the tank class. Takes a lot of damage. Gets right up in everyone's grill. Has some really specific moves for jumping into combat, as well as charging, sprinting in, and doing like a big shoulder tackle. Really powerful move. Feels like you have a lot of impact when you're close. So it's fun. I'm enjoying it.
Good. I'm playing the Warlock, which the reason I picked that was because I love Mass Effect, and I like the idea of shooting balls of whatever I'm shooting as a Warlock. Every character has a super, so it charges up, and then you tap the two top buttons, and yours is like a jump and explode, and mine is like a jump back and shoot a fireball. It's really cool.
So those are the initial supers though.
Oh, right.
At level 15, you unlock a separate subclass that you can start. So I actually didn't bother with mine yet because I haven't finished the first one. I think the Titan's first one is called Striker, and it lets me do. It's like a big jump, and you throw your hands up in the air, and you crash down onto the ground, and everything around you just explodes and gets obliterated. You can actually upgrade it later in that same subclass, and your upgrade means that when you jump way up in the air and you activate your ability, he dives down to a specific target on the ground, so you can actually aim where he's going, and then that's the point that he crashes down to, whereas before it was kind of like just an arcing jump that he'll go from point to point. You have a little bit less control that way. But at 15, with the other subclass, you can actually use a great big shield, a big dome around your character. And that shield actually gives powers and defenses to your allies as well. So people can run into this big bubble, and it boosts their damage for a short period of time, and you take no damage while you're in it. So it's a pretty powerful defensive move.
Yeah, those powers come in handy when you're doing like basically the dungeons and raid equivalents. So the strikes and raids, I guess. Raids are I haven't got to a raid yet, but strikes are like dungeon runs. Like there's bosses and stuff. But there's a step above that, isn't there? There's like we talked about. I was looking at achievements last night. Like it's like raids or something. Have you done a raid yet?
I've heard, but I haven't experienced anything else yet. So I haven't actually done all the strikes, so I don't know if you have to do the strikes to unlock raids. Probably is what happens. So
okay.
I'm still a bit behind on that stuff, but
interesting. Well, I'm enjoying my warlock. I mean, really, for the most part, you're shooting things, you're chucking grenades, you're using your melee attack. There is some variances in how all those work. I'm not trying to oversimplify it or anything. Well, maybe I am trying to oversimplify it, but there's also the hunter class, which is more gun-based. I think Adam's playing the hunter class, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got like the trifecta, and so far it's been working out, but I don't see you requiring one of each class to do the strikes. Maybe on hard mode, I don't know.
I don't think so. For the most part, it is just all gunplay. And any class can use any weapon. You've got your main weapon, your secondary weapon, and a heavy weapon. Actually, I think it's main, special, and heavy.
Yeah, and there's specific ammo for those, and that comes into play in the Crucible as well, where like the announcer will come on, like similar to Halo, where they'll spawn weapon drops, but it's not announced. They'll just be like, there's a rocket launcher in one specific location. With Destiny, it's like the guy comes over the VO and says like heavy ammo is soon to be available, and then everyone's like, okay, and then I just imagine everybody's doing that.
That's exactly what everyone says.
Exactly, and then it says heavy ammo is spawned, and then it shows on your radar, and I think everybody goes for it, and they all die, and then I'll find it like 10 minutes later, like, oh right, heavy ammo dropped, and I'll grab it, and then rocket launcher someone in the face.
So the ammo drops are interesting. Normally, if there's an ammo crate and you run up to it by yourself, then you pick it up and then the crate's gone. If your teammates are nearby, though, like within, I don't know, we'll say 10, 15 feet, I think, they will get the ammo as well. So depending on what weapons you use, actually, I notice a lot of people don't even bother going for heavy ammo.
Right.
They just keep fighting.
Yeah.
Sometimes they use it as a trap. They expecting other people to go there, so they get a good line on it and shoot anyone who tries to go open it. But as a good team structure, you can actually roll in there at the same time, and everybody gets the ammo together, and then everybody's got ammo for a rocket launcher or a big machine gun, and they can just tear through enemies really quick with those.
I didn't know it was like group enabled. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good tip. And I might, probably not. I'm just going to use it as a trap. That's probably the best tip.
Well, if you are going for one, you see teammates coming, let them get there first, and then you can open it.
Be a good guardian. Don't be an evil guardian. Don't be a dick. Be a good guy. That's cool. We're probably going to talk more about Destiny in the weeks to come, and I'm hoping the expansion pack proves to be interesting. It's like $35 for both, which seems pretty steep. I mean, I'm no mathematician, but that's almost $20 a pack. It's probably almost exactly $20. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to more playing more, and we're gonna play after this. I think I might do some more story. Here's some more Peter Dinklage talk, you know? And yes, people in the chat room are asking for the Smash Brothers demo code. So those who...
If you can just email that to me, then we'll be done with that and we're good to go.
Do you have a 3DS?
And then I'll go buy one.
Oh, okay. You should. 3DSs are great. This demo code is for Smash Brothers on the 3DS. Nintendo today announced that a demo would be coming out at the end of next week, but those who are lucky enough to receive an email from Nintendo, not me, would get a demo code. We had some demo codes donated to the show by the lovely Sparky Shocker. I don't know his real name. I have his real name, but I don't want to say it because I wasn't sure if he would allow us to. Let's see if I can find it. Cameron. Yes, from Cameron, Sparky Shocker. He provided us some code. So for those who want it, just do a little ding in the chat room, and we'll see who we get. But while I'm waiting for those to come in, I'm going to quickly describe what the demo is. It's Smash Brothers on your 3DS. You have access to 5 characters, 3 which are returners. There's Link, Mario, and Pikachu. And then you get access to 2 new characters, which is Mega Man and the Villager from Animal Crossing. Now, Kearney, we know, or rather I know, that you are way into Smash Brothers, but you do not own a Nintendo system.
That's true.
So how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel optimistic the next time I come over to your place, so that I can destroy you in a game that you own that I've never played.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of the answer I was expecting, but I'm sure the chat room are surprised. Yeah, no, I played a bit on the 3DS, and for those who've played the game on the TV before, probably wondering, how does that work? Pretty clunkily at first, if that's a word I can use, which sounded clunky all on its own. It's pretty weird, but you eventually do get used to it, and you might come to love it. So there you go. There's a lot of people who say their body is ready, and I'm not sure what that means, but yeah, I'm actually looking forward to playing the full game because I was kind of digging Mega Man and Animal Crossing and the Villager. So, and there's been a lot of leaks out there as to the final roster, and there are over, I think, 40 characters. So, really looking forward to it. Let's look at the chat room here and pick a winner. I'm gonna just do this with my eyes are closed, and I'm gonna stop. And it looks like Soulless Angel. Soulless Angel, if you have a 3DS and would like this code, let me know, and I will send it to you. And then we'll pick the random winner up, the closest person. Oh, his body might be ready. But yeah, just let me know in the chat room. It's yours if you have a 3DS. We're gonna move into the next segment here. But before we do, quick plug here. Jocelyn and I really appreciate your continued support of our show, along with the support of our sponsor, Doghouse Systems. Use the code TheGamersIn to double your RAM when you purchase a new gaming rig. Head on over to doghousesystems.com and get your order on. I don't know why I stopped so weirdly with all those punctuations, but anyways,
it's Casey Kasem syndrome.
Is it? Oh
yeah, got those long pauses.
Welcome. This one goes out to all those gamers out there who may or may not have won a code for Smash Brothers on the 3DS. Anyways, I'm gonna get that code to you, Soulless Angel, while we move into the next segment here. Our topic this week, I'm excited. We're not gonna talk about a real video game. We're going to be talking about the grandfather of video games. Some would even say the great-grandfather of video games. It's so old. Dungeons and Dragons. We played some Dungeons and Dragons, didn't we?
We did.
I'm pointing fingers at you and me for my bachelor party. It was a lot of fun.
We played Dungeons and Dragons. I had played it a long time ago, and there had been some random chats and ideas and topics about maybe picking it up with you and myself and a couple other buddies, and everybody actually sounded pretty interested. So I took the plunge, downloaded a bunch of PDFs, and got myself familiar with it again so that I could run a dungeon, an adventure for you guys. So what did you think? Did you have fun?
I had a blast. I've never played Dungeons and Dragons before, and I knew something was up because obviously you guys were asking for like, our character information and all that fun stuff. So it was on my geek bucket list. I've never played. I've always wanted to. Well, that being said, I did do like a little bit of zombie role playing stuff on another podcast, but never like the actual like hardcore fantasy stuff. So when you were gung ho, you were our DM. You did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Just so great, and there's when you can tell you had a great time, and it went well when you were talking about it out of game afterwards, and there's like these little stories that you could tell. Now we'll get into like how we did it and what we did and all that. But first, I want to tell like my favorite story. So we're in this dungeon, and we come across this like weird goblin thing.
It's a kobold.
Kobolds.
Yeah.
And my character, he's kind of a dick. What is his name?
Roland.
Roland, yeah, Roland the half elf, the ranger half elf with a bow, and he's kind of an ass. And he meets this Meepo character.
It's Meepo.
Meepo the kobold. We'll get to that in a second. And we're not good friends, and I always call him Meepo in game, and he's like, "It's Meepo," and then we move on from there. But I killed him.
Just as a quick note, everything up to this point that they've run into contact with has been an enemy. So every single thing they've seen, they immediately just start fighting and try to kill.
Yeah.
So they see this thing in a room, whimpering in a corner, and they actually went to talk to it instead of just shooting it in the back of the head. So that was a move in the right direction. They were introduced, and for some reason they knew he was friendly, but for some reason Ryan just has to kill this guy.
I don't want to kill him on purpose. I want it to look like an accident. I mean, there's a huge difference. No, I'm just kidding. So the first time I was tired, maybe had a couple too many beers, and I was like, I'll be fun. I'm going to run away because I was dying. So I hid behind Meepo, this little kobold, and obviously the kobold's like a small and I'm a medium. So anything that they're obviously going to go for the small guy. And Meepo died, and I revived him, and I just felt bad. So I was like, here, you could take this gem. So I was like, I tossed the gem to Meepo, and then the DM starts rolling. So you start rolling a dice. And I'm like, why are you rolling? I was like, well, I got to see if he caught it. And then you say, oh, Meepo didn't catch it. It hit him straight in the head. Roll for damage. And then I roll for damage, and I crit Meepo in the face with a gem. And I kill him again. So that's pretty much my favorite part of our Dungeons and Dragons time. Meepo's pretty funny.
You're a terrible person.
I know. I'm a very terrible person, but only in game.
So Meepo is this tiny little kobold with 2 hit points. And he's literally, his only objective in life is to find the shinies. And as they go through the dungeon, he immediately runs towards any shiny, completely oblivious to any danger that might be in his way. And at this one point, they specifically told him to wait in the back. And he waited. He was very good. And Ryan, taking a little bit of damage, maybe 1/10 of your hit points, no real way that you were going to be in any danger.
I thought I was in danger.
The rest of your party was ahead of you, so I really don't understand your motivation here. But you decide, all right, I'm going to go hide behind Meepo and shoot my bow and arrow behind this poor little thing with only 2 hit points and use it as a damage cushion. And sure enough, the enemies shot in that direction, killed Meepo, and, well, you know the rest of the story. Ryan actually brought him back to life, tossed him a shiny to make up for it. I'm pretty sure the reason that I had to roll is because when you said, I'm going to toss him a shiny, a gem, I said, okay, we'll roll. You rolled a natural 20, which in Dungeons & Dragons is a critical hit.
Yeah.
So your toss was a crit. And then I rolled to see if he could catch it. And Meepo rolled a natural 1, which is an extreme failure. So, yeah, he got hit in the eye by a giant gem and was killed again, twice in a row.
By Ryan. Okay. So Meepo aside, It was really interesting. It was pretty rough getting started though. Like no one had played, so we were like, "There's a lot of rules. There's literally 2 sheets of information you got to pick." Like we're so babied by like RPGs, like Dragon Age and The Witcher even, where it's all laid out in front of you and you get to pick and choose. Like, okay, I want to pick this class and this ability. But with Dungeons and Dragons, you have like an inch thick book describing your character, your class, your race, all your abilities you can get, and it's very overwhelming right from the get-go. But if you stick with it, I feel like you stick with anything. I mean, if you really try, you can learn French. I mean, it's pretty crazy.
No, that's never really been done before.
Never been done before. But what I mean is, like, if you just stick to it and you keep trying, I mean, you eventually get Dungeons and Dragons. It's pretty daunting at first, and I think we sort of had the perfect group because we were all really interested. Weren't sure how it was going to go, but we were all interested. So at the end of it, I think we all really enjoyed it, and we're going to try and do the online campaign, right?
Yeah, it was a good time. Mm-hmm. And there's a really cool website called Roll20. Mm-hmm. And on Roll20, you can put your character sheet in there. And from a DM perspective, I can actually put actual maps into the game and have little icons for your characters. You can actually have like 3D tokens is what they're called, and you can move these characters around on a grid. We have to make sure to remember it's not a video game. I'm not going to have all the pretty visuals for you. It's all mostly going to be in your head, but to visualize where you are on a grid in a dungeon for combat rules and whatnot, it's pretty cool, and it lets you really see and maintain your campaign online. And it's a great way so that people who live several hours apart from each other, and there's 4 of us and we're all in different cities, that we can actually get together whenever we want and just play a game for an hour or 2.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to picking up our campaign again because we sort of left it at a cliffhanger. We were searching for the dragon or something, and it's really cool because the way it works is like you have to role play everything. So the DM may be trying to steer us in a specific direction, but like I'd say like it's like, okay, I approach the 2 adventurers and try to whisper without Meepo hearing or something, in case he's a spy. And we can sort of conspire as to what we want to do, and it's just a lot of fun. You can kind of try. You have to be creative. You can't just be like, oh, I bust through the wall, and well, that's been trying to be done, but usually it just fails. I don't know. I really dug it, and it's a cool way to get your brain working. And in the end, it just made me want to play every RPG, like any RPG at that matter. I was really looking forward to Dragon Age Inquisition after we played.
Yeah,
it gets you excited for the RPGs, right? So we were playing 4th edition, right?
We were, yeah.
Yeah. So I had someone on Twitter ask if we were playing 5th edition. Is there a reason we went with 4th?
Actually, I think the biggest reason was just the timing. Mm-hmm. So 5th edition starter kit had just been released, I think, when I was convincing you guys we should play. The only downside with that is when I dig into something like this, I like to have all the possible information, and just the starter kit wasn't really going to suffice. So the player's handbook wasn't even out yet. I don't even know if the monster manual is available now. It might be out now, but the one book that isn't coming out until at least December is the Dungeon Master's Guide. So as far as a full understanding of all the rules, I wasn't really too comfortable with that, and I didn't know much about 4th edition either, but I figured we would go with the most recent full edition. After looking into it, after convincing you guys to play, and I already gave you the info on characters and where to look to build your character in 4th edition, I started looking into it, and I found a lot of negative reviews. I found a lot of positive reviews, but I think the majority of negative reviews are from the extreme, I don't want to call them hardcore Dungeons and Dragons, but the more dedicated Dungeons and Dragons players that have been playing for years and years and years throughout the different editions. Maybe they've been staying on 3 or 3.5 for the longest time.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think the most of the complaints were based on the emphasis on combat, and how fourth edition is all very, very stats oriented, where you're really focusing on building a specific build or type of character in order to win. Whereas in older versions of Dungeons and Dragons, and fifth edition again is what I hear, the main emphasis is on role play, and just playing your character however you want to play your character, and always still having a chance at winning, which I'm knowing that going into fourth edition, I just kind of implemented that on my own as well. So that excuse me, if characters are role playing well enough, then they might have some kind of a combat advantage, or they might have, different things that they can do that aren't, hard written rules in fourth edition. So
yeah, I thought fourth edition was great, and you're right. Like the guy on Twitter later followed up and said, like, yeah, I guess fifth isn't.
Your audio just switched on me completely. I don't know what's going on. I can still hear you.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Oh, there it is.
I'm back. Yay! It's
right.
just my computer being a funky bunch. Hopefully that didn't screw up everything, but I'm back. I was curious. How would fifth edition work? Like, do you just adapt the fifth edition book that's out into your fourth edition sort of rule set that you have going?
Kind of. So I think fourth edition has a lot of emphasis on powers as well, as opposed to you have all of your everything that you want to do in. I remember in third edition at least, you describe it on your own, right? And if it's in your character's skills and abilities and scores to actually pull something like that off, then you roll and you either succeed or fail. Whereas in fourth edition, you have a specific power. Like almost all of your attacks that you use are powers, and they give you a specific thing that you can do in combat. Like you attack with increased accuracy, but it lowers your damage a little bit, or you attack and before or after you attack, you can shift. You can slide your character 1 or 2 squares. And that's all really combat-based stuff that didn't really exist before. But if you wanted to maintain your character, so if you wanted to move your half-elf ranger to a 5th edition half-elf ranger, I haven't looked into it enough myself to really know, but essentially you can have the exact same character in 5th edition. I think they've taken the powers out. I don't know for sure. But yeah, like you can still have your character with the exact same gear, the same skills and the same values for like strength and dexterity and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was also interesting because I don't think I've ever seen anybody so excited about duotangs again. We all
they were pretty super.
Yeah, another friend of mine who was there had printed out all our classes and powers and stuff and put them in this handy duotang. I think I have mine somewhere. Like right over there, but if I try to reach for it, I'm sure I'll pull everything important off the desk. Yeah, we had a lot of fun, and I definitely recommend it. I know everybody's probably like a little daunting. It's a daunting task to take on, but like, what do you recommend? Because I think you dove in the most. Because everybody else just kind of created their character, read a couple pages, and
yeah.
I mean, Adam wrote like a Lord of the Rings trilogy for his backstory. I think I put it. No wonder we went to bed so early that night. He just read his backstory. We were all sitting on the balcony there as he's telling us this rich backstory that goes on for like half an hour. He was actually going to be on the show tonight too, but he's got another bachelor party he's at. He's a busy guy. But yeah, like how would you recommend people getting into this? Like, it's pretty daunting.
It can be, but I think for the bare minimum, what you would need as a player is just the player's handbook, and with that you can see what class you might want to be. Or sorry, I guess you start with your race. So if you want to be a human, a half elf, a half orc, a dwarf, a gnome. There's all kinds of different things. Even the one that Adam is a dragonborn. But yeah, so you can choose your race, you choose your class, what type of a character you want to be, and then that's pretty much it. The entire game, there are a large set of rules that technically need to apply when you decide to do things. But if the person who decides to be dungeon master has a simple understanding of how combat works and how actions and skills that can be used outside of combat works, then the entire rest of it is 100% imaginary. And if you have someone who has a really good idea of an adventure they might want to take some people on, that person can just be a DM. And you literally just one thing that you can do really simple is just have there's a website that I had open on my iPad, and it was called it was a random name generator. So if you guys go into a town, or if you go and talk to people that I didn't actually anticipate you were going to go talk to, I can just pick a random name and give them a name. But as far as minimal use or minimal starting stuff to get into, for a player, you just need a player's handbook and a basic understanding of what your character could do. And then again, it's all just imaginary. For someone who wants to be DM, understanding how the player's handbook is telling your players what to do. So having the player's handbook again is helpful, because then you can say, okay, well, this is what a ranger is probably going to be able to do, or this is what a paladin wants to do. The other thing that a DM can do is you can find published adventures where from start to finish, you can actually just drop your characters into this adventure and read point to point, and it tells you and gives you information about the entire thing. So it says, if this person, or if this group ends up going into this room, the door is trapped, and if they fail a search check on it, then they take this much damage. And it's actually all laid out for you in the case that if you don't have an entire adventure planned out on your own, you can just run them through a pre-made one. So it's pretty easy for people to get into. And then once you get into it, if the interest is really there, you can go and get the monster manual, and you can make your own adventures, and you can have the Dungeon Master's Guide, and have a full understanding of all the different aspects of the game.
Cool. Yeah, no, I have to admit, it was a lot of fun, and everybody should try and find a group, and we're going to try this online business and see how it works. I've used it before. That's how we did our zombie campaign. I played with two buddies of mine who live in Massachusetts.
Massive two shits.
Yeah, I always make that mistake. Massachusetts. Nailed it. But for Zombies Ate My Podcast, we did a zombie campaign. We recorded it on YouTube, similar to what we're doing right now. I just did a screen share, and it had all our webcams up, and it showed the dice rolls, and the DM had a map of where we were and could draw on it. It was really cool, and it doesn't, definitely more fun being in the same room, being able to clink beers at the inn. We were doing that a lot. It's a lot more fun in person, but if you can't find people near you, certainly give this
it's just called roll20.net.
Roll20.net. Give it a shot, and I'll report back once we've had a chance to continue our grand adventures, and I'll try not to kill Meepo. Was Meepo a random generated character?
No, actually. So what I had done is I had an initial plan for starting you off on an adventure, and that was the ship going across sea that you were all a part of.
I almost took us all overboard.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
But then what I decided to try was one of the published dungeons. So once I got you through from point A to B, and then you were over in this new continent, over there you ended up diving into a published adventure. So I had kind of worked out and read through a good chunk of that to get to where you are now, and Meepo was a part of that adventure. So I think if you actually did a Google search for Meepo, I think you might actually see some information on him online.
Well, I don't want to get spoilers.
No. You probably shouldn't, but
Yeah, I won't. But the listeners,
your loyal listeners and viewers here can definitely hop online. I'm pretty sure I saw something about him on a wiki. But yeah, that poor little guy just loves his shinies.
Actually, if someone could add that to his wiki, killed by gem to the face, that'd be great. No, I'll report back once we've had a chance to try roll20.net, and hopefully you guys, can give it a shot. Hey, maybe if you guys want to organize like an A-Move Dungeons and Dragons monthly club or something, we can get something going. I think we could convince Jocelyn to play because she loves World of Warcraft. So come on, it's the next step.
It's not a bad idea. Roll20 is really cool because you can actually set up. There are tons of resources that you can actually just go and just Google search for Dungeons and Dragons. You can say dungeon grid or something like that, and you can just get an entire dungeon with the proper grid on there that you can just drop it directly into Roll20 as a DM, and then if you really want to, you can dive in further and add lighting to it and all kinds of stuff. But the basic stuff just lets you put your tokens on the grid, and people can move through the dungeon. They can create their own dice to roll, and you just go from there. Hook up either on, I think it's got Google Plus integrated, so you can do Google Hangout right in the site, or obviously you can just go through Skype or some other service and connect with your players.
Cool. Great. Well, I'm looking forward to continuing. But before we wrap things up, if you want to show your TGI pride, head over to /loot.com. That's SLASH loot.com to grab yourself a Gamers In t-shirt. They have tons of other awesome shirts, including designs by Carter Johnson, like Best Pals, as well as all your other favorite podcasts like Azeroth Roundtable, The Morning Stream, Zombies Ate My Podcast, and The Angry Chicken. Sorry about that. So go to /loot.com and show off your podcast pride. We don't have any listener feedback, but I do want to thank our wonderful patrons. If you go to patreon.com/thegamersin, you can become a patron and help us realize our goals of a brand new website, or join us for game night, and maybe even vote for what games we play. Special thanks goes out to Jim Bean, a very cool patron who's been with us since the beginning. So thank you, Jim. And finally, a thank you to the emailers. Last few weeks, we've had some really split topics on the show. It got pretty hairy there, talking about EA Access and Gamergate and all that fun stuff. So I want to appreciate, I do appreciate everybody sending in their emails, and we read them all and we reply to all of them. The Gamergate ones were especially great. A lot of people sharing their knowledge on the topic. I wasn't on last week, but I did listen to the show and I did read all the emails, and you guys are all right in my books, so keep them coming. Matt, thank you for joining me. Do you have anywhere the listeners can find you?
I've got a pretty minimal internet footprint.
Right.
I will add in chat that I do hop on Twitch every once in a while and stream mostly Final Fantasy XIV, actually, the
Nice.
MMO. I don't know if anyone online is familiar with this one, but it's the revamp of their big MMO that completely flopped a few years ago. But it's pretty spectacular now, and I'm part of the Death and Taxes free company on Gilgamesh, and we are among the top 30 players in the entire game right now, pushing for some of the most exclusive content. We have finished 3 out of 4 of the Savage raids that are in the game right now. We're just working on the last one and should probably have it done within the next week.
Cool.
But yeah, I hop on and stream several nights throughout the week, usually around 8 p.m. Eastern. So if you're a fan of Final Fantasy, check out Matt_plays_games on Twitch.
And there's a couple in the chat room who have already said that they're interested in the Final Fantasies.
Awesome.
I can personally attest to Matt's prowess in MMOs, because back in the university days, World of Warcraft, you were all over that. You rocked those raids.
I played a little, yeah.
I'm not questioning your well, that's all good. It's fine. I'm just talking about like how you were all in the raiding scene, and I did a couple raids. We did some some Wrath of the, no, not Wrath of Lich, well, some Wrath of Lich King, but it was like Naxxramas, I think. So, yeah, if you want to catch some Final Fantasy higher level gameplay, go to Matt_plays games on Twitch. Definitely do that. And yeah, that's the show. Awesome. Thank you for joining us, Matt. It's always a pleasure. Visit us on the web. Yeah, well, you know what? I figured, hey, what better week to do it? Because next week we're not here. We're all at the wedding, and yeah, next time I'm on the show, I'll be a married man, and I'll have a lot more free time because I won't be working on name cards and table tents. So that's going to be fun. More time for games. So next week, no show. We'll try to have a placeholder up there. I'm working on some stuff, just maybe get something up before the honeymoon. But yeah, Jocelyn will be back the week after with another special guest because I will be away that week as well. I think Octane, the Smite Master, is coming on, so prepare for some Smite talk and maybe some smack talk. Probably calling me out for not being there. But if you want to visit us on the web, go to gamersinpodcast.com. You can also find us on amove.tv along with other fabulous podcasts, including Into the Nexus, Campaign Roundtable, The Angry Chicken, and Amove Radio. Follow us on Twitter. You can find Jocelyn at GISGamer, Ryan at RMurphy, that's me, and don't forget to follow the show at The Gamers Inn. The video versions of all our episodes can be found on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Jocelyn Moffat. You can also find the show on Facebook and Google+. Email the show at info@gamersinpodcast.com because we love reading your emails and we usually feature them on the show. So be sure to get your thoughts in. Matt, that's it. I read everything that was written down here, so that's a show.
Hang on, let me just add more stuff to write down.
No.
Oh, okay.
Anyways.
You know what? I'm not going to write anything down. You need to go play some Destiny and level up.
We're going to go do that. So we're going to go play Destiny. I'm going to hang up the... Well, anyways, thank you for joining the show, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. We will definitely see you in the near future. Okay, now we can go play Destiny.
Let's do it.